Hi, my name is Chet here from Avion Technology in the Chicagoland area. We are a web design development company, or what you call a digital agency these days. So just to give you a quick 30-second primer about who we are and what we do. So we essentially work in three areas. The first is helping create MVPs, that's minimum viable products for a lot of startups. The second area that we work in is actually helping digital agencies in with the revenue of about 250,000 scale up to 500,000 or even a million. And the third area that we specialize in is digital marketing. So today's video actually pertains to the digital agency part of our business. So like I said, one of the areas that we do operate in is helping agencies, especially smaller agencies, right, with a $250,000 annual turnover, scale up to 500,000 or a million. One of the things we've noticed in a lot of these agencies is that there's often a lack of processes, right? So usually the way most agencies are formed is, you have someone with a development background or an SEO background or a video background, and they start a freelancing moonlighting business, and of course they are good at it, so they start getting referrals from the warm network, so that's friends and family, and they do a good job with their initial project, so work kind of starts piling on. At that point in time, they usually rope in their spouse or their sibling or their parents, someone to kind of help them with the work overload. And suddenly, before they know it, there's like a 4 or 5 people team, that's now working on projects. And that's usually at the $20,000 monthly revenue mark. After that point, the work kind of still keeps on piling in. As the agency is, as the agency stays in business, after the 3 or 5 year mark, they kind of start getting some kind of a reputation locally, and so more work starts coming in, and then they need to hire new people, and slowly, before they know it, they have like 10 people on their payroll, or they're using contractors, but they have like a team of 5 or 10 people, and they're doing about $40,000-50,000 in revenue. One of the problems that a lot of agencies face is that, especially in the initial days, is because they do not have individuals with project management expertise. All the projects are kind of run almost on a fly-by-wire kind of a basis. So almost by I don't know what's the right word. It's almost like in a non-scientific way, right? Almost by gut feeling, right? That's how most projects get run. The problem with kind of working on projects that way is that most projects will kind of tend to overshoot their success metrics when they're developed like that. Again, one of the problems that and I've myself been guilty of that, because we're also a small business. We never spend time to work on our business, right? We're always working in our business, so we feel happy when we're working for 5 days or 6 days a week, 12-hour days, so 72 hours. So what has happened in the last, to kind of rewind back, what has happened in the last 10-20 years is that it's all about the number of hours you put into your business, right? So everyone is involved in operations, and for 50, 60, 70 hours a week, which is okay. A lot of small businesses, like small growing kids, they need a lot of attention, especially in the early years, right? But like kids, and when they grow up, at some point in time, they have to be self-sustaining, right? They got to be able to go and ask for breakfast, or even make their own breakfast. So they have to kind of go from small kids that you kind of need to take care of all the time to mature adults, right? It's a very similar transition in a lot of digital agencies. Like in the initial years, you have to kind of have to do everything by yourself. But after you've spent 5-10 years working in your business, the agency has to have enough processes within it to be able to run by itself. That I have seen is usually the hardest transition for most agencies, for a couple of reasons. First is, like I said, most of the initial members, the core team, often tend to be relatives or close friends, or neighbors, cousins, that kind of stuff. And the problem with that is that you can't fire your neighbor who's working with you for incompetence. You can't fire your cousin who's working with you for incompetence, right? So what happens after 5-10 years of running an agency, and especially after you've hit that 250 or 500,000 or even 1 million mark, is that as the work kind of keeps coming in, to handle that workload you need more processes, right? Otherwise the whole thing is going to kind of cave in, implode. But to create an organization which has the processes in it, you also need to define the success metrics, and that's where these family-based or friendship-based kind of organizations start crumbling. So, going back to my initial conversation, one thing that I've seen happen in a lot of small agencies is that there are no success metrics for what constitutes a successful project, right? So we get a proposal, we code it out for a certain number of hours, time and material. But in the whole kind of the whole kind of business of delivering that project, we forget these success metrics. And so one of the things that I really wish a lot of small business owners did is that an hour at the end of every week, if they actually sat back and worked on their business as opposed to working in their business, they could actually get a lot of good data points, right? Who are our best customers? Who are our worst customers? Which are our best projects? Which are our worst projects? Who are my top 5 customers? Which are the top 5 technologies? Where am I seeing where am I seeing a lot of energy in the market? What kind of projects am I getting in? Why are some of my proposals not closing? Why are some of my proposals closing? What are my revenue sources? What are my lead sources? So the first thing, the first takeaway from today's lecture, if there's anything, is that create a sort of a template for yourself that you fill it out yourself or you ask the people who work with you to fill out. But start getting these data points in. Do it for a quarter, right? Almost on a kind of a beta version. But you will see that if you do this exercise over 6 months, over 9 months, a lot of interesting patterns will kind of start emerging. Like one of the patterns that I remember that happened with me is that there were a few clients who I thought were amazing clients, right? Because they used to give me a lot of work. But when I went back to the data, I realized that almost every project of theirs was loss-making. So not only was I losing money on their projects, they were also paying me late, so my cash flow got stuck. But they were of course giving me a large volume of business, so that used to always make me happy. But in hindsight, maybe I would not have taken on those clients because yes, they did help me create a portfolio, but they drained me of a lot of time, a lot of cash, and frankly a lot of sanity as well. So the first thing is, if you're a small, if you have a small digital agency, if you're doing about 20-25,000 up to 50,000 or even $1 million worth, 80-100,000 per month kind of revenue, please start investing the time in finding out these data points, right? In all your different departments, in projects and sales and HR and finance, all your different departments, create a little framework, create a little template for yourself in terms of, finding your monthly data points. And then once you do that, within projects, start defining what is a successful project, right? So today I'm going to list a couple of criteria for what constitutes a successful project, in my opinion, for a digital agency. Now bear in mind that we are primarily at Avion, a lot of what we do is app development. So this will of course have a bias towards app development, not necessarily digital marketing or video production, but it's kind of the same for video production and digital marketing as well. So the first thing you got to remember is your burn rate. In fact, this is a data point that I monitor very close, almost on a daily basis, right? Is what is the burn rate on all my different projects? Burn rate is nothing, essentially for every project you have you have allotted a certain number of hours, right? This website needs to get completed in 70 hours. This website needs to get completed in 80 hours. And you're burning anytime someone works on that, whether your WordPress developer is working on that, or whether your UI UX person is working on that, or if your SEO person is working on that, they're spending a certain number of hours working on that project. That's the burn rate, right? Now, if you're not monitoring the burn rate of your project on a daily basis, right, there's a very good chance that the project will go over and you will not even notice that the project has gone over. So this is the first thing, is monitor your project's burn rate on a daily basis. The second is on-time delivery, right? This is again very difficult, and this is particularly difficult in an offshore kind of an environment. I have worked in both. I've worked in an onshore environment and an offshore kind of an environment, and this is an area where a lot of offshore projects typically struggle, is on-time delivery. I don't know if it's a cultural thing. Maybe I think it is. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But getting a delivery which was promised on a certain date to happen on that date is almost it's very difficult in an offshore kind of a setup. So whenever you're starting a project, if you're working with an offshore team or offshore vendors, please make sure in the project initiation call that all the stakeholders know what the respective deadlines and the respective timelines are. There's a lot of companies, there's a lot of agencies here who work with offshore partners, but their clients are onshore, often in the same city. And the clients have been promised a deliverable on a certain date, and the date comes and the deliverable never arrives. And that's because the offshore partner just forgot about it or couldn't make it on time, or there's a million reasons. And agencies here have to be in that embarrassing position of having to go in front of that client and explain why this delay happened. So make sure you don't fall in that position. So like I said, the first thing is, if you're an agency, please make sure you have some kind of success metrics defined for your overall agency. Now, on a project management basis, one of the success metrics is the delivery milestones for individual projects. Make sure you have those. Second is, like I said, the burn rate. Make sure that you're monitoring how many hours are being burned on a daily basis. The third is the profit margins. Again, for an agency, a respectable margin on any project is 15 to 20% operating margins, right? If you're operating on a 20% margin kind of a basis, I think you're doing wonderful. I know agencies who do more than that. I know agencies who are a little less, but anything less than 15% and you're in a little bit of a gray area. And anything less than 5 or 10%, essentially means that you're working for cash flow. So don't do that. I know it's an insanely competitive environment, right? I was recently on this website called guru.com. I don't know if you guys know it. It's GURU, guru.com. It's like Elance. It's Upwork, right? Elance is now Upwork. So I saw a few folks who were coding their work at $1 or $2 per hour, right? That's how low the market has become. And if you're going to compete with someone who's coding $2 an hour, then God bless you, but it's always going to be difficult. So choose your market wisely, right? Work with folks who value you for your quality and all these other intangibles that you bring to the table, like your professionalism, your courtesy, your workmanship, as opposed to clients who are all about what's your hourly rate, how much is this going to be for, because those clients will kill you in scope creep. That's one. But secondly, it's if there's nothing falling in your kitty at the end of the day, if you're not retaining some cash from your business at the end of the day, then there's no point in being in business. Now, the benefit of being in a services business, and agencies are a service, right, is that from day one you can be profitable. And that's the good part. But you have to make sure that you're retaining at least 15% to 20% of what you're making, ideally more than that. The third and final metric that I'm going to talk about today is actually the Net Promoter Score. Uh, if you look at the distribution of your clients, you will see that there's the Pareto principle, right? The Pareto distribution. 80% of your clients are going to give you 20% of your clients are going to give you 80% of your business, and 20% of your clients are going to give you 80% of your issues and troubles, right? But I also personally feel that, especially in the agency world, that if you want to go from the $20,000, $25,000 per month to 80,000, 100,000 per month and cross that million mark, sure, you can go out and find new business every month, but the best way to actually get there is through farming, and that's by harnessing the potential within your existing accounts. And to do that, you need to have customer outreach. You need to see who are your best clients, who's given you the most amount of business, who has the most potential. So again, all these things that you should be doing on a Saturday afternoon. But please, ask your clients this one question, which is essentially the question that's asked when you ask someone for Net Promoter Score, is how likely are you to recommend me to another friend or a family member? And if you get an 8 or a 9 there, trust me, you're on the way to being a successful agency, right? So here at Avion, like I said, we work with a lot of smaller digital agencies. We usually help them in a lot of WordPress development, a lot of website development. A lot of them struggle with having programming talent. They've gone offshore, tried the whole offshore thing by themselves. It hasn't worked out. Here in the US, finding developers and then paying them is insanely expensive. So they often work with companies like ours. So we help a lot of kind of smaller agencies, help them scale from $25,000-$30,000 per month to like $80,000-$100,000. In fact, a few of my clients have even exited. They've sold their agency and gone on to do something else. So we're based out of Chicago here in the northwest suburbs. This is my email. This is my phone number. If you just want to give us a shout, tell us more of what you do, and maybe have a quick conversation about how you do it, I would be more than happy to. Again, this is Chet here from Avion Technology. Oh, by the way, before I forget, so this is the summary of today's conversation. A, spend time working on your business. Spend an hour or two every week, just kind of analyzing what's right, what's wrong, looking at all the different data points. Number one. Number two, if you're managing projects in your agency, make sure you manage the burn rate, right? Every day. Please manage every day how many hours are being burned on a particular project. Second is, please communicate the milestones very clearly and upfront to all the stakeholders, to all the partners. Number three, do not forget margins. It's all about the margins. If you're not taking home 15 to 20% of your project's gross revenue, you should rethink your business model, right? And the last is Net Promoter Score. Don't forget that. Please make sure you ask your clients how likely they are to recommend us to their friends, family, or their network, and that'll give you a very good picture of what they think about your services. So this was my little lecture. Hope you liked it. I'll see you in the next video. Please don't forget to like us or subscribe to us. Thanks. Bye-bye.